Well, this is the official welcome to OGF25. I'm Craig Lee. I'm the president, and we really are living in extraordinary times, I think, with regards to grid computing and then also developments around, obviously, things like cloud computing and green IT and virtualization. But what I want to start off with is by essentially thanking our event sponsors, our network providers, and then also recognizing our Platinum and Gold members, Microsoft, Fujitsu, Hitachi, Mimos, AIST, Nortel, and also the Grid Forum Korea. And for our Silver members, I'm not going to read all these individually, but again, I want to thank all of our organizational sponsors. And just a brief overview of what OGF25 looks like. If I counted right, we have 45 group and box sessions, 13 community sessions, and then 16 unique tutorials and 17 unique workshops across another different number of actual sessions. And of course, Martin Walker was our program chair, and I would like to publicly thank him right now with a round of applause. Martin did an absolutely outstanding job. I genuinely thank you for all of your efforts. Okay. There's a couple of organizational things that I want to bring to everyone's attention. OGF has a new VP of Enterprise. This is Ian Osborne. He works for Intellect UK, which is a UK trade association for IT, telecoms, and electronics. He's the project director for Grid Computing Now, which is a knowledge transfer program of the UK Technology Strategy Board. And you can look up that URL if you want to. We're all very thrilled about this because the goals of the enterprise function and also Grid Computing Now align very well. There was no question in anybody's mind on the part of OGF management or Intellect UK, and then also their UK sponsors. Everyone saw the synergy right away, and so we're very happy to get him on board. He's also part of OGF-Europe, so he works with Silvana on the promotion of grid computing and distributed computing technologies in Europe. Also, I would like to say that we also have a new chair of the advisory committee for OGF, and this is Martin Walker. And so, he's trying to retire, but he's not quite there yet. And again, we're very happy to have the advice of his depth of experience over this distinguished career that is listed here on these bullets. I mean, it sort of staggers me to think how much he's accomplished in his career. And for those of you that are not actually familiar with what the advisory committee does, this is the organization that is really charged with taking the long view for strategy around distributed computing technologies. And I find their advice very valuable in terms of charting the course for the organization. And again, we're very thrilled to have Martin on board. In terms of the extraordinary times here, I'm not going to go through a long description or discussion around these topics, but clearly OGF has to maximize the value of our current portfolio. Over the last few years, we've produced many different documents, and the question is to actually have those documents make an impact on the systems that are built and deployed. So again, the HPC Basic Profile, Saga, Drama, and a whole host of others, I want to say that these are valuable pieces of work that we want to get adopted as wide as possible. If I didn't put your project name, your standard up here, please don't feel offended. Also, there's this notion of grid sustainability. I mean, obviously in the past there's been a lot of research projects that have driven this forward, but we want to move to operational budgets. Those things that are actually the workhorses of modern society and provide societal benefit that drive economies and so forth. So this is clearly an important goal for OGF and the grid community. Clouds and virtualization are clearly very hot. The whole notion of dynamic provisioning with simple APIs is on everybody's radar. Obviously, the grid community and the kinds of applications that we represent, the user groups that we represent, are strongly looking at how to leverage this technology, this approach, this way of providing distributed computing capabilities and the entire economics and the business models that go along with that. And I certainly see that there will be a lot of development in this area and a lot of adoption and integration of technical approaches. This is also joined at the hip with green IT or green grids. I mean, obviously, this is the issue of how do you manage energy policy across distributed environments. And if you look at it the right way, say, gosh, this starts to look like a sensor network with a decision support system and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of overlap there, especially when you start thinking about data centers, across continents and across the globe, where you want to be able to effectively manage the workload to achieve some energy policy. And the final point here is that all of this means that we have to establish the OGF brand, across the entire spectrum of distributed computing. It's not just the G word. It really is all effective technologies for distributed computing across the spectrum of different applications, whether it's high-performance computing for big science, or whether it's enterprise, whether it's data access and integration for life sciences or bioinformatics, what have you. This is the entire field that we want to address. So, just another note here that we do want to get across to folks is that we are going to try to change a little bit the way that we plan events. So you may have heard recently that we went through an event survey exercise recently, and what came out of that, what we heard from the people in the audience and in the grid community, is that, well, we would like to have at least one large event a year. Okay, but we might have a second large event if there's a good co-location opportunity that exists. Okay, but otherwise what we plan on doing is having 2 more working group focused events per year, which means that it's really a heads down, let's get the work done on developing the standards and so on and so forth. This means that in 2010, what we expect to have in the way of our OGF meetings is to have a large meeting in Europe in the spring, because the following 2 events in 2009 are going to be in North America. So there is a co-location opportunity that exists for the first meeting in 2010, and that will be in Europe. And then after that, we expect to have 2 working group focused meetings, one that will be in North America and one that will be in Europe. And also, in these economic times, managing travel costs is something that more and more people are thinking about. So, we are certainly saying, well, not all groups have to meet at every OGF. And so they could actually decide to meet, wherever their center of gravity is. If most participants happen to be in Europe, then they could meet at the European meetings, and likewise for North America and other parts of the globe. But we are certainly looking at this issue of how to manage the expense of engaging in the OGF activities. And the final slide that I have here is just an upcoming promo for OGF26 in Chapel Hill. Registration is already open for this event, so please do look at that and consider attending. And then also OGF27 is going to be in Banff, Alberta. And this will be your view from your hotel room. So by all means, you keep these events in mind. And with that, I'll turn it over to the next speaker. Thank you.